What's up, everyone? This is Scratch, and I've got a quick video here for you. We are going to take a look at Lumo on the Xbox One. This game was provided to me by the developer so that I could check it out and let you guys know what I think about it and give my honest opinion. So that's what we're going to take a look at coming up here in just a second. So Lumo was released on June 22nd, 2016. It's developed and published by Rising Star Game, and the genre is considered an isometric platformer. So basically what that means is it is an adventure game where you just kind of go from like room to room. It's kind of like a old school dungeon crawler, from the late 80s, early 90s, when most of us were kids, or maybe some of you weren't even born yet. But it was really, really popular back then. This game has like over 400 rooms, a couple of different unique zones, hidden mini games and things. And you basically just kind of go around and discover it. Story-wise, it's a little bit different. Like, you start off as this kid and you run into what looks like an arcade set up in somebody's house. And all the way down at the far end of it, you sort of get sucked into this video game and you turn into this little Orko-looking dude. Orko was the wizard from He-Man, if any of you know that. But anyways, you turn into this little Orko-looking dude, and essentially you just kind of explore these dungeons and go through these different levels. They have a lot of puzzles to solve, and they have a lot of different things where you're going to go through and like collect different things and then backtrack and then get this, and kind of like what you would experience in like maybe like a Legend of Zelda game. It's similar to that, where you go and collect different power-ups and different things to progress. So the gameplay wise, it's actually pretty fun. I think some people will find it a little bit tough. The platforming is a little bit different, if you can notice from the perspective. Up isn't necessarily up, although at the beginning of the game you do have the option to sort of change the controls. So like, instead of pressing up, you will like travel in perpetual up, like diagonal, or you can actually have it match the stick. So if you want to go diagonal, you move the stick diagonal. So that's going to be based on your personal preference on what you like. But just the angle from which you're looking at it presents a little bit of a puzzle and a little bit of a challenge in and of itself that is probably going to take some people some getting used to. I know it did me, but I picked it up pretty quick. But it's just worth noting that it's not traditional platformer, and your depth perception is going to come into play there a little bit. So, but otherwise, it's overall pretty good. I found the puzzles to be fairly challenging, but once you play around with them a little bit, you can kind of figure them out. I never really needed a guide to get as far as I did. I'm about 3/4, probably almost done with the game. And I never really had any situations where like I was completely stuck, and couldn't progress on. So I think most people you probably would progress, fairly easily without a guide. What you will need a guide for, though, however, is the achievements. The achievements are like super hard, and it's one of my biggest complaints with the game, is the fact that the achievements are, I won't say they're nearly all missable, but the ones that are missable I'm talking like, if you miss it, it's like 3 hours of gameplay that you're gonna have to get back to that spot where you can do it. For example, I'm about 4 hours in, and there's an achievement for, which will bring me to my next point, which is really cool. But I'm about 4 hours in, and there's this section of the game where it really references Ghostbusters, and I'll get to that in just a second. But at the end of it, there's a little bit of an Easter egg where you walk through and you see a Ghostbusters. There's a picture that looks like the Ghostbusters firehouse from the original movie, and you have to walk up to that. I assume I didn't get it, I missed it, but you have to walk up to that, and it'll unlock an achievement if you check it out, just to say that you noticed it or whatever. So I did notice it, but I didn't walk my character over to it, so the achievement did not pop for me. And now I'm past that part, and upon reading it, I'm gonna have to play through all that time again to get back to that particular spot. Not horrible, but a checkpoint system would have been nice to see in this. I don't know if it has any sort of checkpointing after you complete the game, but up until at least that point, there is none that I can find. One of the other things that was kind of a problem with that was with the achievements is that there's those mini games that I spoke about earlier. One of them is like it's almost like a throwback to like Gradius or Defender or whatever. It's like one of those you're just flying a ship and shooting back and forth and whatever, and you have to score a certain amount of points at the end of it. The problem is if you get too far into it and you don't have enough points, you'll hit a checkpoint so that you can't go back any further. And then if you finish, you pretty much only get one shot at doing it. Same with the ski slope achievement that's in there, going down the ski slope, hitting all the gates. It's all these little mini games. You pretty much have to do them perfect the first time through. So that's a little bit tough, because if you miss those, it's quite a bit of play that you have to put back into it to get back to that point to only get one shot at it. You can try to, do the dashboard trick or whatever, but the loading and stuff in the front, you'll get bored with doing that pretty quick. So a checkpoint system would have been huge for that alone. Otherwise, though, I mentioned the Ghostbusters type thing. There are so many references. I probably haven't even caught them all, but there are so many references to the 80s and 90s and the time when these games were popular, that I found it really enjoying to kind of go through and pick those out. So I think people will identify with that and like to be able to to find out. I'm not going to spoil any of them here, but there's more than a couple. Bubble Bobble is in there, for example, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo. I played on the Nintendo when I was younger. There's some of that gameplay aspect in there too. So picking that stuff out and finding that is always fun for me. I'm a huge fan of Easter eggs, a huge fan of story. This game doesn't have quite as much story, but the gameplay and the Easter eggs, in my mind, sort of make up for it. It's a cute game. The graphics are kind of cool. I like the throwback of it, and I think most people will too. If you like what you see here on the screen, it is a lot of fun to explore, but achievement hunters beware, because it's a little bit unforgiving in terms of the achievements and the collectibles and things like that, and there aren't a lot of guides online either for it, so that kind of just adds to the challenge. But for a throwback, if you want to experience this isometric adventure or dungeon crawling is kind of your thing, this is a pretty good game for that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. If you like the video, please like it and consider subscribing for more of this. I occasionally do these reviews as developers will send me games, and then review games also that I purchased myself. So I appreciate you guys watching. It means a lot. So I'll catch you guys all in the next video. Thanks.